Hey, Saddleback family. My name is Matt. I've got a little word for you today that I hope you'll find a little bit encouraging. So, my question right off the bat here is, have you ever had to be rescued before? Have you ever found yourself in a situation where somebody had to come and rescue you out of the trouble that you found yourself in? Maybe you had to get rescued by a ski patrol up on a mountain, or by a lifeguard in the water, or maybe by a park ranger when you got lost on the trail. Whatever it is, have you ever had to be rescued? My guess is that most of us have probably experienced rescue at some point in our lives, or at least that's what I'm going to tell myself to make me feel better about all the times I've had to get rescued in my life. Let me just tell you about one of those real quick. So, when I was about 12 or 13, I was swimming in the ocean with my cousin Alex. Now, I grew up in the Midwest. I did not grow up close to the ocean, which I know sounds like a tragedy to a lot of you. But I was used to swimming in lakes, not so much the ocean. So I didn't really know at 12 years old about things like rip currents that much. But let me tell you, I learned this day. So Alex and I, we were swimming, we're jumping in the waves. The waves are kind of big, it's super fun. But eventually we look back and we realize that we have drifted super far down from where we started. And our family is way down on the other end of the beach. And so we figure we should probably swim in and then walk back to where they are so they don't get worried about us. So we start to swim back to the shore, not realizing we're right in the middle of a gnarly rip current. And if you know about rip currents, you know you can't really swim directly to shore and get out of it. It doesn't really work. Eventually, you just kind of get pulled even further back out. And so we're swimming our little Midwest hearts out. And when we finally realize we're not going anywhere, we start to laugh. I don't know why, just because we're 12 and that's what you do, I guess, when you're in trouble. I don't know. So we're laughing, which makes the swim even worse. And then now all of a sudden we are in trouble. Thankfully, some lifeguards noticed that we were in trouble and came out to rescue us. The first lifeguard that got there, he actually got destroyed by a wave himself and had to get rescued, so he wasn't much help. But the second one, clearly more experienced lifeguard, he made it to us and he threw us that lifeguard buoy, you know what I'm talking about? And we grabbed onto that thing with both hands. Even though we were kind of embarrassed and laughing at the time, we grabbed onto that thing and it gladly accepted his rescue as he towed us and he swam parallel to the beach, which is what we learned is what you're supposed to do when you're in a rip current. You can't swim toward the beach, you got to swim parallel to get out of it first. And even though our adolescent hearts and pride took a bit of a hit that day, we still gladly accepted that rescue and we held onto that buoy with both hands. Now, I don't know about you, but this past season that we've been in the last several months has kind of felt like being stuck in a rip current in a lot of ways. I came into 2020 with a whole list of hopes and expectations for what this year is going to hold. But now, several months later, it feels like, man, we've drifted so far from any of that. And it feels like we've been hit by wave after wave of loss and disappointment and sadness and all kinds of other things, right? And sometimes it does feel like I'm swimming super hard, but not really going anywhere. It's been disorienting. It's been relentless. It's been really tough in a lot of ways. Maybe you can relate to that. Maybe you can relate to some of those feelings. Maybe it feels like you're kind of stuck right now. This past week, God brought me back to this passage in the book of Hebrews that I love. But I read it in the Message paraphrase for the first time and loved these words and found it really encouraging. So I want to share that with you. It's Hebrews 6, verses 18 to 20, and this is coming out of the Message paraphrase. Here's what it says. We who have run for our very lives to God have every reason to grab the promised hope with both hands and never let go. It's an unbreakable spiritual lifeline reaching past all appearances right to the very presence of God, where Jesus, running on ahead of us, has taken up his permanent post as high priest for us. I love that phrase. Grab the promised hope with both hands and never let go. Man, that's a word for somebody. That's a word for me. I'll tell you that. In this season that we find ourselves in, rather than trying to swim our way out of it, God is telling us, just grab onto this lifeline that I'm throwing you. Grab onto the hope that is Jesus Christ with both hands and don't let go. That might sound a little cheesy. It might sound a little romanticized, whatever you want to call it. But man, this has been true for me in this season. That the times when I've felt like I'm exhausted, that I'm the most disoriented, that I'm trying my very best in my own strength to get out of this and can't really get out of it, I've found myself turning to Jesus, who is our Savior. It's what he does. He's like the best lifeguard of all time. Turning to Jesus and grabbing onto the hope of Jesus, casting my burdens, casting my cares upon him, turning to him and just grabbing on with both hands and trusting that he's going to take us out of this. He's going to bring us out of this relentless rip current kind of like season and bring us into calmer waters eventually. So that's a word for you today, hopefully, wherever you find yourselves in today, whether you find yourself exhausted or confused or disillusioned or disappointed or whatever the case might be. My encouragement to you is to grab onto the hope that is Jesus Christ today with both hands and don't let go. Love you, Saddleback.